Formed in 1894, the Buller Rugby Football Union quickly became a cornerstone of sporting life in the mining towns and communities of the region. Buller Rugby developed a reputation for toughness and resilience, shaped by a hard physical environment and the close-knit nature of the West Coast. A number of All Blacks either began their representative careers with Buller or played for the Union during that period. Forward Fred Newton was a 1905 All Blacks original who was selected out of Canterbury. Working for the Railways, he moved to Westport in 1908, playing one game for Buller. Another 1905 original, John Corbett, was selected for the Great Britain tour before appearing for a provincial union. Upon his return, he represented the West Coast in 1906 and 1907 before moving to Westport, playing for Buller through to 1910. Talented All Black hooker Sam Bligh represented Buller in 1907 and 1908, then the West Coast in 1909-10, gaining national honours. He then represented Buller again from 1911 to 1913. 5'8" Bobby Black made his All Black debut out of Otago in 1914 on the tour of Australia. On his return, he was transferred to Westport, representing Buller twice in 1914. Black enlisted in the Otago Mounted Rifles and was killed on the Somme in 1916. George Aiken debuted for Buller as a 16-year-old in 1914 before attending Victoria University in Wellington and representing the province. Selected as captain against the touring Springboks in 1921, he played only 2 tests before moving to the UK to further his studies and then gained selection as a Scottish international. Sturdy fullback Mike Gilbert was a Buller rep in 1930. A post office employee, he transferred to Greymouth in 1931, playing for the West Coast when first selected for the All Blacks in 1935. Despite a small population, the Union regularly punched above its weight, occasionally producing players who went on to national honours. Playing for Buller, Tom Fisher was the Union's first original All Black in 1914, followed by Westport hardman Chaz McLean, appearing 5 times for the All Blacks in 1920. Wing 3/4 Snowy Svensson played 34 matches for the All Blacks, including 4 tests. Playing out of the Westport club White Star, Svensson scored 23 tries on the 1924 All Black tour of the UK, including a try in each of the 4 tests. Hooker Bob Tunnicliffe out of the now defunct country club Umere, 10-game All Black wing Edward Holder, and tough as teak 1949 All Black prop Bill Mumm round out Buller's 6 original All Blacks. The East Coast Rugby Football Union was formed in 1922 when they split from the Poverty Bay Rugby Football Union. Due to the high number of players from Ngati Porou-East, the union was officially renamed Ngati Porou-East Coast in 2023. It is New Zealand's smallest rugby union in the sense of player numbers and population base. George Napier was one of New Zealand rugby's finest fullbacks, famed for his role in the legendary 1924-25 Invincibles All Blacks Northern Tour. Originally gaining All Black selection out of Hawke's Bay while attending the Maori Agricultural College, he returned to the East Coast in 1927 and played for the All Blacks while representing that union. While still a school pupil at Tokomaru Bay, Buff Milner made his debut for East Coast as a 17-year-old in 1963. In 1965 he joined the Army and was based out of the Waihuru military camp, playing his club rugby for the Army. He was selected for Wanganui in 1966 and earned a place on the All Blacks tour of South Africa in 1970. In 1972 he was transferred to the South Auckland area, representing counties 41 times between 1972 and 1978. Raw-boned midfield back Andy Jefford returned to the East Coast in 1978 after representing Canterbury while studying at Lincoln University. Selected first for the All Blacks in 1980, he appeared in 3 tests the following year, but playing in a minor union was a handicap and Jefford soon dropped out of the national reckoning. He remains the East Coast's only original All Black, first chosen for the All Blacks while playing for the Union. Originally part of the Otago Rugby Football Union, North Otago, one of New Zealand's smallest rugby unions, was first established as a sub-union in 1904 and then a full rugby union in 1927. Drawing from players from the predominantly farming Waitaki district, North Otago was based in the coastal town of Oamaru. The union has had somewhat of a resurgence in the last 2 decades, winning multiple Meads and Lahore Cup titles in the Heartland Championship. Outside back, Ian "Spooky" Smith was first selected for the All Blacks while representing Otago out of the tiny Maniatoto club Gimmerburn for the 1963-64 tour of Britain and France. In 1965, while playing for North Otago, he was once again picked for the All Blacks against the touring Springboks, playing in 3 out of the 4 tests. In 1970, midfield back Ian Hurst was picked to play for North Otago while still attending Waitaki Boys High School. After attending Lincoln University, he gained Canterbury selection and from there the All Blacks, representing his country in 32 matches. Hurst returned to North Otago in 1975, representing the Union until 1980. A player of midfield back Phil Guard's background would have little chance of becoming an All Black today, for he came from one of the smallest clubs, Kurau, and one of the smallest unions. Having first appeared as an 18-year-old for North Otago in 1966, he had featured in a number of combination selections and All Blacks trials, and when injury struck the All Blacks midfield backs in the 1971 Lions series, Guard was called up for the last test at Eden Park. This was to be his only test in a 7-match All Black career, and he remains North Otago's only original All Black, selected first from the Union. Established in 1893, the Horowhenua-Rugby Football Union was charged with administering and growing the game within the largely agricultural community, centred on Levin and surrounding towns. In 1997, the union was renamed the Horowhenua-Kapiti Rugby Union. The histories of many of New Zealand's smaller unions are littered with names who were effectively forced to move to larger unions to further their careers. Among them was All Black fullback Joe Karam. A prodigious schoolboy talent, Karam represented Horowhenua in 1971 and was first selected for the All Blacks the following year from the Wellington Union. He played 42 times for New Zealand, including 10 tests. Horowhenua's only original selected All Black was Harry Jacob. Regarded as a fine leader, he captained both the North Island and New Zealand Maori early in the 1920s, as well as Horowhenua.